Say what you will about this young Spurs team. They put up a fight.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Kens 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you back. Hey, look, I know we're about to recap the Spurs lost to Minnesota, but this is like one of the rare times you're probably walking away from an L smiling. Look, the Spurs saw their 3-game win streak get snapped out of the Target Center, 134-122. But that was without Josh Primo and without Devin Vassell. And they relied on a 19-year-old Jeremy Sohan to step up his game, and he did. Yeah, we're going to recap the game last night. Spurs lost to Minnesota. We're going to then give our general thoughts about what did we see in this game. Who stood out? Is some player showing something to us now that we have 5 games under the belt? They're going to play a little game of buy and sell. And once again, he is back, everybody. Rudy Campos here to help me recap another Spurs game. But before we do that, thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts. Rudy, welcome back to Locked On Spurs. And why does it feel like those rare times where everybody's kind of happy about an L?
Yeah, it's, you're happy with this kind of a loss. And I know that you don't get moral victories and I get all that stuff. A lot of people say it's not good to have a moral victory or whatever. But when you've got a team that's as young as the San Antonio Spurs and without their star player, Devin Vassell, and you still give Minnesota a hell of a fight, you got to walk away smiling, at least a wry smile, if anything.
Yeah. Look, this is a game we're heading into it. If the Spurs were at full strength, you're probably thinking, okay, well, if that first game versus Minnesota was an indication when the Spurs just walloped them, that maybe the second game would be more of a fight. We're going to see what this team is made of. But even without Primo and Vassell, this team showed that they are full of just dogs. They got some dog in them. Let's look at some numbers, though, before we get into some of the overall thoughts about the loss. Credit Jeremy Sohan right away, 12 points. He stepped up his game, and for a 19-year-old to do that with the team down 2 main players, good sign for his development. Keldon Johnson really stepped up his game, Rudy, 27 points in the victory. And what kept this team in it was really rebounding. The Spurs, despite not having the size as Minnesota does, out-rebounded the Timberwolves 40-30. What jumped out at you when you looked at the box score?
Looking at the box score, the first and foremost thing is, when you were missing 2 key players, like you mentioned, especially Devin Vassell, Spurs only lost by 12. And if you look at the scoring compared to the last 3 games that they were on the 3-game winning streak, everything was balanced with the exception of Keldon getting 27. But let's figure Vassell in there. I mean, you figure he's going to get at least 17, 18 points. Primo's going to get you about 6 to 10. That's a Spurs victory if you're thinking about it. We use the what if type thing. So what stands out to me is that you mentioned it before. This team is scrappy. This team's going to compete night in and night out. The biggest thing was the rebounding. You mentioned it. You hit it the nail right on the head, man. When you've got 2 guys like Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, and you're still able to out-rebound them with only Jakob Poeltl technically as your big guy, that says a lot to this team. That shows that they're crashing the boards. They're buying into everything that the coach staff is telling them. And you know what? You've got to crash the boards because there's also another point you brought up, Jeff. When you want to have a run and gun type offense, you've got to hit the boards all the time on the defensive end because you got to get on the fast break really quick.
Yeah, you really have to, and this is what the Spurs did. They're crashing the boards as far as fast break points are concerned. Not many, 6 points, but it's not like Minnesota was running on them as well. 8 points for Minnesota. What really got the Spurs at the end was just that 3-point shot from Minnesota, and then you look at the 3 line, 23 pointers made for the Timberwolves. He had about 10, 11 of them in that second period. That's all she pretty much wrote. And the turnover battle was tight. It wasn't the Spurs were, just coughing up extra possession, 16 turnovers to Minnesota's 17. But yeah, hot shooting. Minnesota was shooting over 60% in the first frame, over 50% going into half. The Spurs, we're just seeing a red-hot team from the perimeter. And you knew this was going to happen. Anthony Edwards, bounce back game from him. 34 points, 12 for 21 shooting. Rudy, you knew you were not going to be able to contain him, right?
No, and when we had recapped the previous game between these two teams, Anthony Edwards had a really off night, and I did mention you're not going to get the same Edwards. You're going to get the original Anthony Edwards, the guy that's been tearing up the league lately, and he did 34 points tonight. But one thing, there was actually a couple of things that I saw. When you got a team shooting 58% from 3-point range, you're probably going to lose that game unless you're shooting the identical percentage.
Yeah.
But not only that, a credit to the Spurs team, man. I mean, 90% from the free throw line. We've seen their free throw percentage increase a lot last couple of games.
Yeah, that is another good point you brought up there. The free throw shooting, 12 for 22, kept them in the game. The rebounding kept them in the game. So that tells me the Spurs are willing to do the little things to be competitive, to give themselves an opportunity to get W's. And I know Team Tank is probably saying, what are you saying, Rudy, Jeff? We got to get these L's. This is a great day. Well, sure it is. Okay, fine. You win one for Team Tank today, but you also win one for development. Correct me if I'm wrong, Rudy. Isn't that part of the agenda this season for development? And we're getting it.
It definitely is. I mean, yes, because you want to have the opportunity to draft a Wemby or a Scoot doesn't mean you can't, necessarily say you got to stop the growth of the youth already you have. We're seeing the development. Like we said, this is going to be a year of development. We're not saying it's going to be a year of losses, a year of wins, whatever. Vegas hasn't pegged at 23, maybe lower. I've had them at 22, 23 wins. They've off to a good start. But the development of the players is just as important as losing games, and that goes for both sides of the Team Tank and Team Compete. Basically, watching these guys develop is so important because no matter who you add in the draft, these guys got to be a part of it. So it should encourage a lot of Spurs fans to see these guys play the way that they are.
Yeah, there's a lot of encouragement. And when it comes to just spreading the wealth, again, without Vassell and Primo, the Spurs really saw that. All starters scored in double figures. Josh Richardson stepped into the starting role, finished with 11 points in 33 minutes. Also had 10 assists. I think that's even highlighted. He really was trying to get everybody involved. He had a double-double, 11 points, 10 assists. Good on you, Josh Richardson. Love those assists. You got Jakob Poeltl with 12 points and 10 rebounds. Another double-double for him. You look at Sohan, we mentioned 12 points, couple of threes, 2 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 1 rebound. Rudy, you see what he's kind of a do-it-all kind of guy. And then off the bench, you had Doug McDermott that really kept this team in it when things looked like it could have gotten out of hand. You look at Keita Bates-Diop, 15 points on the night. You're seeing this team, Rudy, really have to rely on one another, aren't we?
Oh yeah, and that's what we kind of had mentioned before about the beautiful game, man. They're making assists. It's kind of like you're seeing them just really, really gel as a team very early. We didn't know exactly what we were going to get at the beginning of the season. Now we're seeing it. You're right. They're relying on each other to win these games. There's not one person out there that you're looking at like, you need to win this game for us. You need to come in and do this. It's a team effort from this team. And let's not forget, man, Trey Jones, another good night, 13 points, 7 boards. He just does all the little things. And I'm seeing a lot of love for Trey on Twitter, Spurs Twitter. And he deserves it. I mean, he's a guy that's going to come in and just do the little things for you and keep your team in the game. He's going to get the offense rolling. He plays good defense. I mean, the biggest thing about Trey is that he keeps his turnovers low, and that's what you want out of your point guard, especially your starting point guard. But yeah, man, the gel for this team, the chemistry on this team, it's really surprising to me. And what I like to see is the ball movement. The ball movement is so important. It just reminds me of great Spurs basketball from past.
Absolutely. On the night, the Spurs had 34 assists. Again, the Spurs are one of the top teams in that category. When we get back, we're going to talk more about the Spurs loss to Minnesota, 134-122. Record now is 3-2. And kind of give general thoughts. What are we seeing overall of this team? Is this team starting to form an identity after 5 games with Rudy Campos of Sweep the League? But before we do that, I want to talk to you about PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the daily fantasy app that you need. You got to make your entries on PrizePicks. Look, it's easy to use. It's easy to play. You pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their PrizePick projection, you go up to 10 times your money on any entry. Not competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. PrizePicks offers projections on any sport that you watch. NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, PGA, Disc golf. Yes, if you're a fan of disc golf, they got it. Euro basketball, cricket, and much, much more. You want to go to PrizePicks right now. Get it on your cell phone, your mobile device. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. Very simple. Safe and fast withdrawals. Currently operational in over 30 states and Canada. Download the PrizePicks apps or just go to prizepicks.com, sign up, and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can get themselves a 100% instant deposit matchup to $100. You got to use promo code Locked On. So basically, if you deposit 100, PrizePicks will give you 100. You give them 50, they'll match it and give you 50. Simple. Don't forget to enter promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. We're back with Rudy Campos of Sweep the League, recapping the Spurs loss to Minnesota. Record now is 3-2. So, Rudy, I look at this team and what we see in 5 games already. Is it safe to say that this team's identity is going to be run and gun, scrappiness, and never say die?
I say 100% what you said. Yeah. I mean, we've seen the run and gun. We've seen, like I said, the ball movement is kind of what we're talking about when the run and gun. You know, they get the rebounds. As you can tell, they're hitting the boards, which is allowing them to get on the fast break. Transition threes. I mean, they're playing a style of ball that is accustomed to this new NBA era of basketball that we've seen. The run and gun, you know, get the quick shot, do this, do that. The scrappiness part, they've always been a scrappy team no matter what. Any team under Coach Pop has been a scrappy team. They're not afraid to get dirty, get the big plays, die for loose balls and everything like that. But you're seeing a little bit more from this team. The reason why, Jeff, is because you really have nothing to lose. No one's expecting this team to go anywhere. So when you have a nothing to lose attitude and you're always going to be the dog in the fight, you're gonna do whatever you can to prove the naysayers wrong. And that's what it seems like this team is doing. They're doing everything all the little things they're doing right. And, you know, I've said many times before, these first 20 games were critical, and I thought it was going to be so tough. But the way that this NBA is going this year, you're seeing some of the top teams in the league just really looking terrible. And it's the teams that are young, the teams that are just fighting for every loose ball and for every point that are coming out on top. So, yeah, the identity of the Spurs is definitely being shown with the 3 that you mentioned.
Yeah, you see that. Trey Jones, for example, he's one of the league leaders in loose ball recoveries. So he dives for the ball. I think at last check, it was like well over 20 already in 5 games, 20 loose balls recovered. And you look at just the third period alone against Minnesota, they were down as much as 17 points, but they actually outscored Minnesota in the third 41-34. They cut that Minnesota lead down to single digits, never quitting, never giving up. And I like that out of them, you know, again, giving themselves opportunities to win games, playing together as the assist shows, diving on the floor as Trey Jones shows, people stepping up, Josh Richardson, double on the night. So all in all, I like this. And look, again, you got to mention this again, Rudy. This is supposed to be a developmental year. So let me ask you, do you think the Spurs are ahead of that learning curve? Or that's too soon to tell?
Man, what I'm gonna say is like it's kind of in the middle. It's too soon to tell. That's definitely for sure. I mean, we're only 5 games into the season, and like I said, the NBA is almost like in Stranger Things. It's in the upside down right now because you've got a lot of these huge teams that are not exactly performing the way expected, but you got a lot of teams like the Spurs that are on top of the league and doing everything right. So I think it's too soon to tell right now, but overall, I mean, the prediction I think is still going to be right. Eventually, you know, the teams are going to catch up to them, and I really think that you're going to see some nights where it's going to be a struggle for the Spurs, but it's going to be a good struggle. They're going to have to learn on their mistakes and stuff like that. But right now, I think it's too early to tell. I can say give it till about the 15th game of the year, and we'll see where they are.
You know, without Vassell, without Primo, and for them to give it to Minnesota to the bitter end, I mean, this is just good. You know, the wheels came off about, little after the start of the fourth. But even then, the Spurs kept it close, 32-28. Wolves outscoring the Spurs in the final frame. And, yeah, I think this is a team that is starting to believe that if they play together, they're buying into the system, they're buying into the togetherness, they could be a headache for teams down the road. Now, we got to talk about Jeremy Sohan. There's been a lot of criticism at him on the Spurs fan base that, he was a wasted number 9 pick. He's a black hole on the offensive end. What has he really done? Look at his horrible shooting. But it looks like with time and some cooking, it looks like Jeremy could be a big factor this season, Rudy.
He really can. I mean, right now he's only averaging 5.8 points, 4.8 rebounds, and 1.3 assists. I mean, his shooting is not great. Everybody knew that coming in, especially when he was drafted. He wasn't going to be a great shooter at all. But what I feel is their biggest positive is he's starting on an NBA roster right now at 19, something you don't see in the Spurs system ever. I mean, Parker came in, but it took a few games. This guy started from day one. Even Kawhi Leonard started day one. So, I mean, they've got to understand that, what you see in Jeremy is what you get right now. He's still developing. He's still young. He's not going to come out and get you 20 points a night, 15 boards, or whatever anyone is expecting. Exactly what you're getting out of Jeremy is what you're going to get for now. And you know what? He's exceeded expectations, in my opinion, because you're getting more than what is expected out of him. And I just love what I'm seeing. He's going to improve every game, and that's going to be a bonus for the San Antonio Spurs.
Hey, Minnesota, it was the Spurs that blew out you guys at 30-plus points. And the biggest lead that Minnesota gave the Spurs was 17. So let's see how the third round is going to look like in San Antonio with hopefully a full roster ready to go. Primo back and Vassell back. Maybe Minnesota needs to start planning a little bit more for the Spurs. But when we get back, we're going to continue our chat about the Spurs after 5 game. Play a little game of buy and sell with our guest, Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. But before we do that, we always want to thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen today. Now, for your second listen, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter to the biggest stories in sports. They go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights that only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, or wherever you get podcasts. We're back with Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. We're looking back at the Spurs loss to the Timberwolves out at the Target Center. And never thought a moral victory would feel good, but this one really does. This loss showed me a lot. Even though the Spurs got the L, Rudy, we kind of got a glimpse of what this team is made of, didn't we?
Yeah, we are. We got a really good glimpse of what this team is made of. It's blue collar, man. They're just out there getting the job done. And like I said, it's a dog. If you're the only dog in a fight, if you're going to lose and you're expected to lose, why not just see the naysayers wrong and just go out there and win? Like Al Davis said, win, baby, just win.
Yeah, and that's what the Spurs, at least team compete, are hoping the Spurs will do. Again, they'll get the rematch against Minnesota in just a few short days. They got to play Chicago next. They'll be going home finally, and already did a road trip. It's hard to start this young season, but they'll definitely be coming back to a warm applause against the Bulls. Now let's play a little game of buy and sell with our guest, Rudy Campos. Rudy, buy or sell that this team is going to be a team, the Spurs team that is, that NBA teams are going to have to plan for as the season goes on?
Definite buy. I mean, this is a team that so far, in the first 5 games of the year, with the exception of the Hornets game, has won or just been in. I mean, the one loss after the Hornets game was this Minnesota game, and they were there. I mean, you're talking, again, a team without Devin Vassell, their leading scorer, and they could have won it. Let's be real. They could have won it. They were making nice little runs, but this is a team that's definitely have to be on the watch list for a lot of NBA teams because you can't overlook them. This isn't an OKC team from back in the day where it was hey, we're going to go in there, we're going to win, and all that. Yeah. It's not like the bye week in the fantasy football league either, where you're going to guarantee to win. You're going to get the best of the Spurs night in and night out. And I know that sucks for Team Tank, but I'm sorry. I've always said that, players don't really tank, and it's a proven fact. They want to win. As much as they want to have the next superstar, they want to win at the same time. So I think it's a team that definitely needs to be watched, and other coaches and coaching staff as they're going to take notice.
Absolutely. Let's do another buy or sell question with Rudy Campos. Buy or sell that Rudy Campos is going to move his win total projection from the Spurs. Just a reminder, everybody, Vegas has them hovering around 22.5, so 22, 23 wins this season. After 5 games, Rudy, where do you stand? Buy or sell? You're moving that line up or you're moving that line down?
I've always had him with you pegged at 22, 23 wins. And Vegas, I think, originally had him at 25. They moved him down to 23.
Yeah.
I'm still sticking at 23. I still think 23 wins. I still need to see a little bit more. If, like I said, at the 15-game mark, if they're just balling out, getting those wins that you're normally not supposed to win, then I'll move it up a little. But for right now, I'm keeping it at 23. I love this team. I love the way that they're playing. But eventually, talent does win out.
Yeah, it is a strange beginning of the season. You have the Spurs, they just rattled off 3 in a row before losing to Minnesota. You have the Jazz. I thought the Jazz were supposed to be bad, Rudy. They're winning.
Yeah.
Lauri Markkanen is finally playing like the Lauri Markkanen everybody thought he would play back in the day when he was drafted. So, things are on the upside down. We are in the upside down, as Stranger Things has taught us. I just hope there's not a Vecna out there. That Vecna could be a massive losing streak for the Spurs, which again, Team Tank will love, and that's the thing. That's what we say we want to test the Spurs metal. Okay, well, had they played at full strength, we would have gotten a big test against the Minnesota team that was going to come out swinging, and they did. Okay, So it's a little diluted. Vassell and Primo didn't play, especially Vassell. Vassell's a big key. But you're going to see little tests like this throughout the season. You're going to get a test the next game, Chicago. DeMar DeRozan's on a tear again. How's this team going to respond? My biggest test for them that I want to see how they handle is if and when they hit a massive losing streak. If there are 3 games, 4 games, 5-game losing streak, I want to see exactly how they rebound. And to me, I think that's exactly what I'm going to want to be looking for as far as testing their mettle. What about you?
Yeah, it's going to be the mental thing for these guys. I mean, they're hyped up. They're ready to go at the beginning of the season. But for some of these guys, it's a long season, too. I mean, you still got, we got 5 games in, so you still got, my math is horrible, 77 games left in the year. Mm-hmm. So I think when they hit that first losing streak, it's going to test a lot of their mental status on the team because, I think it's going to be the first 3 or 4 game losing streak, like you said. Yeah. We're going to see what this team is really made out of. If they come back and fight and they win 2 in a row, then it's a different Spurs team. But exactly. It's when it happens, I don't know because you're looking at Chicago as 2-2 right now, then you get Minnesota again at home. I want to say those are 2 wins. Those are 2 teams that you technically can beat the way that they are playing right now.
Yeah, we definitely will see. Yeah, once again, the Spurs lose to the Timberwolves out at the Target Center, 134-122. 3-game win streak is snapped. They are now 3-2. Look at their road record. They're 3-1 on the season already. So, yay, that proves they can win on the road. That's a good sign for this team's development.
Maybe they should play in Austin.
I know. Hey, no. Yay. What are you doing, Rudy?
Just a little gas in the fire. That's it.
Oh, a little gas. That's like the inferno that's always firing up among Spurs fans right now. Are they moving? Are they not? Did you see how crazy it got when the new jerseys and gear was released and the star part of the Spur was hovering over Texas and it was on Austin? That's how crazy these conspiracy theories have gotten. But now that Rudy really got the fan base fired up, we want to hear from you. What do you think about these Spurs loss to the Timberwolves? Are you happy at an L? Are you happy with this moral victory? And what do you think about overall so far through 5 games? Do you think you know what this team's identity will about to turn into as the season goes on? And do you believe the Spurs are moving to Austin? Thanks, Rudy. Thanks, Rudy. Thanks, Rudy. You opened up that can of worms.
I'm sorry.
Well,
you know what?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. It's okay. We're only 30 minutes from Austin, 35 minutes off, so it's technically a home game still.
Oh yeah, they got 2 home games. Well, quote unquote home games in Austin later this season. So yeah, wait till those games happen. You want to see the fan base start fighting? Yeah, you're definitely gonna see a lot of fighting late in the season when it comes to team relocate or team stay. But once again, we're done talking. We want to hear from you. What do you think about these Spurs lost to the Timberwolves, as we mentioned. And yeah, give us your thoughts so far through 5 games of this very young Spurs season. Rudy, why don't you brag about Sweep the League?
Yeah, every single Monday night where Sweep the League is releasing episodes. We had a really good one this past week with Richard Oliver talking some sports and all. But I'll leave everybody with this tidbit here. Spurs are fighting 3-2. They could be the Lakers with 3 top 75 players winless. So it can be worse, Spurs fans.
Well, it could be if Westbrook gets traded to the Spurs. That's what Vegas is projecting. Vegas has the Spurs as the third team with the best odds of trading for Westbrook.
I don't want that. I really don't.
I'm okay with it if they give us unprotected draft picks.
Yeah, and it needs to be 20.
Be okay with that if they're unprotected.
You know what? Yeah, if they have a 2023 first and it's unprotected, I am 100% okay with that because the way they look this year, they're going to be a lottery. Exactly. So yeah, all day.
And how does that work? Because let's just pretend the Spurs Lakers to make a deal. By the way, there was a report via The Athletic that the Spurs and Lakers have talked already. But so the Spurs get Westbrook. We're just all make believe. They say, here's your unprotected first round draft picks. Thanks for helping us out. We got rid of him. His salary comes off the Spurs books, correct? If they waive him, they don't have to eat the contract, right? Or they eat the contract.
I think that's a good question. I think they do eat the contract. I don't know if they eat all of it though. I think it's a percentage.
But basically, at the end of the day, the Spurs get the cap space relief as well, right?
Yeah,
they get it. I think that's how it works, right? Yeah.
And I think you can spread it out too. So
right, yeah, I remember that. Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna save this talk for an episode down the road. But Rudy told you all about Sweep today. We're going to tell you about Locked On Spurs. Subscribe to Locked On Spurs wherever you get your favorite podcast. Google Play, Stitcher, iTunes, YouTube, the Ken's 5 Plus app. And again, YouTube, Locked On Spurs YouTube page. And we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every single day. For your next listen, check out Locked On Sports Today podcast, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts. So for Rudy, I'm going to torch the Spurs fan base with Austin talk. Campos, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock in this episode of Locked On Spurs.